I'm going to do a few rumours and get a few fights coming up and just something a little bit different for this week. So we're joined by Ander. Good evening, Ander.
Evening, Paul. You all right?
Yeah, all good, all good. So what we'll do, we're looking for plenty of interaction from the sidebar tonight. I'm just about to post a link, so as people join, if they want to jump on camera and join us, feel free to do so. So we'll take it from here. So first topic of the night, and we're going to look at JOYCE versus Christian Hammer coming up at the weekend. So over to you.
Not a bad card, this, mate. There's a couple of decent names on there. Start a little bit down the card. I know you're quite a big fan. Nathan Eni's fighting 10 rounder middleweight. Nathan's currently sat at 15-0. About time to give him a bit of a push now, isn't it?
Well, he's got the fan base, so
yeah, he has. Yeah, he's fighting a chap called Nizar Trimech, who's 9-3-2 with 4 KOs, 1 KO on his loss record. Should be a fairly easy night's work for Nathan Ena.
Yeah,
like you say, he brings the fans, don't he? But I'd like to see Frank Warren give him a bit of a push, get him into some better middleweight fights. There's plenty of really good British middleweights out there, so why not get him in there? You got the likes of Felix Cash, you got the likes Danny Digman.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not put him in, test him, see what he's like. I know Felix Cash is right up there. Probably one of the best middleweights in Britain if you take out Eubank Jr. But yeah, why not test him? He's come on in leaps and bounds, in my opinion. Yeah,
very humble kid as well, isn't he? He comes across very humble. I know we're due to have him on the show, aren't we, at some stage? But you're right. I think the Stoke fans are going to want to see him tested a little bit now, because obviously he had that break from the boxing, didn't he?
Yeah.
Where he got a little bit disillusioned with the sport, and now he's come back all guns blazing. He ain't going to want to hang around at that level, is he? So, it sounds like a tick-over fight to me, with the hope that he gets a big fight later on in the year. Like you said, a lot of good domestic fights.
Yeah, there is.
So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Okay, next on the card. Back out again, Callum Johnson. Currently sat at 20-1. He's fighting a guy called Igor Mikhalkin, who's 24-3. Again, Callum's been a bit unlucky, hasn't he? He's had injuries. His last few years of his career have been a bit stop-start.
Missed out on the Joe Smith Jr. fight.
Yeah, he's unfortunately, mate. It's one of them. A couple of years back, he was by far the best light heavyweight in the country. Like I say, he's only got that one loss on his record.
Yeah, you were seeing the sidebar that Daniel Keller, good evening, Daniel, said that Johnson's not fighting now. I mean, I've not seen that yet.
Well,
if that's
I've not
the case,
seen it either. I've just taken my details off BoxRec, fella.
That'll be a crying shame if that's the case, because like you've said, Andy, it's a stop-start career that he seems to be having for
It must be so frustrating. Must be so frustrating for him. Daniel, do you know what the reason is he's not fighting anymore? Let us know in the sidebar, mate. Or even better, if you fancy, fella, jump on the screen, have a chat with us. Cole's dropped the link in the sidebar just below where you've commented. Please feel free to come and join us. We don't bite, honestly. Yeah, drop it in the sidebar, Daniel, and let us know. Because if that is the case, it is a real big shame, because, like I said, he's only lost to Beterbiev.
And he does blow up a little bit, Johnson, in between fights. So, the more active he can be, the better, to be honest.
And let's have it right. In that Beterbiev fight, mate, he had him in danger early on. No one's done that to Beterbiev apart from Callum.
Yeah, I just worry about. I worry about Callum Johnson's exposure. He's in the Who Needs Him club at the minute, isn't it? So it needs Warren to obviously open his wallet up.
The problem he's got, mate, is because he's not active enough, because he's getting injuries, and things are going off in the background that we will never find out about. It's just not working for him. He needs to be active. He's not. I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to Callum here, but he's not a spring chicken anymore.
No.
He's getting on a bit, and he's probably not got a lot of time left at the top end.
And he's not particularly a big name at that top end either.
I think everyone in boxing knows who he is, mate. The problem is he's not
He's not a draw, though, is he?
He's not in the rankings. That's the issue. So, like you've just said, he's in the Who Needs Him club simply because he's not a highly ranked fighter. Top end fighters are not going to want to take the chance to take him on because where's the benefit for them?
Yeah.
To take that risk against a big puncher, where's the benefit? If he was highly ranked, if he's in the top 2 or 3 of the governing bodies, then it's worth taking the risk for some fighters, isn't it? But he's not in that position at the moment. He's good enough to be in that position when he's fighting, but he just, for whatever reason, it just don't work for him.
I mean, he's 36 now.
I know, this is what I mean. He's getting on a little bit into... what a shame if that is the case, mate. What a shame. I was looking forward to seeing where he's at right now, but hey ho. Okay, moving on. Jason Cunningham is defending his IBF interim and his Commonwealth title against Tete.
Now this is billed as top of the bill, isn't it? Is this billed as the main event?
It's put down as the main event, but it won't be. Joe Joyce will be the main, will be the main fight, mate. I'll be very surprised.
So just before we jump in, Daniel's put injury. 4th fight is pulled out of in 18 months since signing his promotion.
Sad. It's real sad, Daniel, isn't it? That, I mean, I don't know what this means for Callum's career. Is he getting injuries because of his age and he's trying to train too hard to get back fit? Is he pushing himself too much in the gym? Or is it just the fact that he's at that stage of his career now where he's going to start getting these injuries? Really tough on him, mate. Really tough on him. Wish him all the best, but by all accounts, he's a great kid. What a shame.
Evening, Joe.
How's it going, Joe? You all right, mate? We're just talking the Joe Joyce card for the weekend. If you've only just jumped on, we're just about to talk about Jason Cunningham against Tete.
Great fight.
Very good fight. Tete's he can bang, mate. He's got a very good knockout percentage, 29 victories, 22 KOs. Whereas as Jason Cunningham's, he's only got 7 KOs from his 31 wins. This could be a bit of a banana skin.
Tete's avoided, isn't he? I think he's avoided.
Yeah.
Dangerous fighter.
Yeah, very. Very. So that very interesting fight. Cunningham's got lots of skill though, mate.
He's going to need it to keep Tete healthy.
He'll make this fight as difficult or as easy as he wants to, I think. If he's switched on, he should be able to avoid them big shots. If he's not, then he might find himself in a little bit of trouble. Okay, moving on to what I think is a really, really disappointing fight, mate. I'll tell you why I think it's disappointing. So Joe Joyce was obviously meant to be fighting
Parker.
Joe Parker. I mean, the strange thing with all of that was that they had him face to face and they hadn't even signed a contract. What is all that about? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that?
It depends who you listen to, don't it? Because there's a lot of toing and throwing about he said, she said, and all, who's to blame. And
mate, he said, she said, don't matter. Was Joe Parker's name on a contract?
Well, you reckon there's a gentleman's handshake, and it's not the only fight and not that I'm an advocate of it, but it's not the only fight where they've gone a bit early, is it?
I'll ask you the question again. Was Joe Parker's name?
Well, obviously not, or he'd be in the ring.
Right. Schoolboy error from Frank Warren, then, isn't it?
It's not the. All I'm saying, I'm not like I've said. I'm not justifying it, but I like to give a bit of balance. It's not the only fight to have ever done it on a handshake. That's
No,
all
of
I'll
course,
say.
no, I get that. I understand that. But that's not business. That's not the way you do business, is it? Top end promoter, one of the best promoters in Britain, and he's relying on a handshake to make.
And I'm honest. I'll be honest with you. I'm bored of all this toing and froing between the camps about who's to blame. To be honest, because we'll never know, will we?
Well, obviously, Joe Parker's got to take some responsibility because now he's signed with Sky. I don't know why that means they can't make the fight. All that means is they've got to decide which broadcaster it goes on.
But you've got more mudslinging, haven't you? Where Ben Shalom's coming out saying that he's offered 1.2 million for the fight, and then Frank Warren saying it's a load of crap. Yeah. So who knows?
Yeah, apparently Ben Shalom said he's offered that money for the fight to be on Sky. Frank Warren clearly doesn't want it on Sky. He wants it on BT. That's why he made the fight in the first place. What he's saying is, well, Joe Parker's gone against his word by signing with Sky, and now it can't be on BT. Well, whatever. At the end of the day, it's very simple. At the end of the day, he never got Joe Parker to sign a contract.
They're both two fighters, well, who can't really afford that exposure, to be honest with you, because they're both in need of being involved in the humdinger, aren't they? Let's be honest. They need each other, really. We
talked about this a few weeks back, and we said how important a fight it was because they were sat at number 1 and number 2 in the WBO rankings, or number 2 and number 3. No, Joe Parker's definitely number 1, so it must be number 1 and number 2. So it's a very important fight. I don't know where this leaves Joe Parker. I don't know where it leaves him. All right, Matt, how are you, mate?
Good evening. You okay?
Yeah, I thought I'd let you in as a special treat, Matt.
Appreciate it. You're just too good to me, aren't you?
Yeah, it's been said. Go on, Andy, carry on.
Matt, we're just talking about the Joe Joyce fight, and I'm saying that I'm a little bit disappointed with the fight simply because he should have been fighting Joe Parker.
Yeah,
and all this to and froing about who's this to blame, that's to blame, he said, she said, don't really matter. All that matters is Frank Warren, as a promoter, should have got a contract signed before they stood face to face on a live event.
Yeah,
and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So now we're not getting a fight where the mandatory spot for the WBO was up for grabs. Joyce being at number 1, Parker being at number 2. We're now getting Joe Joyce against Christian Hammer.
And also, who's Parker going in with next then?
Again, it'll be a nobody, won't it? It'll be a warm-up fight because it'll be his first fight on Sky. But back to this fight for the time being. Christian Hammer. I mean, come on. So, Hughie Fury beat him in 5 rounds. He's been beat by Yoka. He's been beat by Ortiz.
Let's make this easier. Every time he's stepped up to an half-decent fighter, he's been beat. That's the truth of it. You don't need to rattle off all 9 of them.
Can you even call him a gateway fighter? I don't even think he's that good.
Well, I'm not sure about a gateway fighter. He might be a gatekeeper. I'm not sure about a gateway. But, yeah, like you said, there's even a couple of names on there who are nobodies, aren't there? I mean, Wax on there, for God's sake. So, yeah, I mean, Joyce blows this guy out in 3 rounds for me. He ain't going to have to go looking for him, is there? He's going to absolutely jab his head off.
Oh, put that book down or that bit of paper, please.
Yeah. So I don't think this sees a 4th round.
It's a completely pointless fight for Joe Joyce. I mean, Joe Joyce is getting on a bit in age as well. He needs to be fighting the very, very best or world title fights. He's clearly not getting the world title fight just yet. That might happen next year, but he can't keep himself ticking over fighting these fighters. It's doing him no good.
I think it's not all Joyce's fault. Well, I don't think it's Joyce's fault, this situation. I think Frank Warren was probably a little bit desperate to sort of try and capitalise on the fact that he's got the 2 of them together at Wembley Stadium on the Fury card and everything like that. He needs to, he probably felt like he needed to get another sort of like heavyweight showdown or just a big fight in general.
Yeah.
To get it out there. Joyce, you said about Callum. I was listening before. You said about Callum Johnson being in the Who Needs Him club. Joyce is right up there as well in the Who Needs Him club in the heavyweights.
Yeah, I agree.
I think,
well, he just sits tight, Matt, don't you? If you're Joyce, you sit tight, don't you, and wait for that world title shot.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's fair enough. But I mean, it could be a situation where if he doesn't take this fight, how long is it going to be before he does get a fight? It's certainly going to be the situation with the heavyweights is so. Fury supposedly retired. That belt's held up. You've got Usyk and Joshua finally getting it on in August. Those belts are tied up.
And he's coming off a wrist injury as well, isn't he? So, that's even more a reason to get in that ring before you have a world title fight to make sure that wrist is all okay.
Oh, I wasn't aware he was injured as well.
Yeah, he's had an operation on it by all accounts. So he's coming back from that. That's what's delayed him getting into the ring up to now.
Yeah, I get that, Carl. I understand that. I mean, is that an excuse for fighting Christian Hammer?
I don't know where it said in that sentence it's an excuse. I just said
that was a question mark question, mate. Is that an excuse? What I'll do next time, I'll say, is that an excuse? Question mark.
Yeah, that'll make it clear that I understand what I'm answering. So no, it's not an excuse. But what I would say is, again, to give it some balance, I like to balance things. He's not the only heavyweight to ever come back and fight a lower level fighter and return from injury.
Any fighter at any weight, isn't he? It's a situation that nobody wants to be in. It's the situation that nobody wants to see. Do you know what I mean? Like, Joyce would much rather be fighting Joe Parker. He'd much rather be fighting, anybody probably bar Christian Hammer. But if Christian Hammer's the best they can get at the moment, then
I'll ask another question then. I'll ask it to you, Matt. You might not be quite as sarcastic.
Well, frame the question right, and he might be able to answer it as well.
It was framed right the first time round, mate. You just didn't listen.
Answers on a postcard. Good luck, Matt.
Matt, if this is the only fight he's having before a world title fight early next year,
yeah,
is Christian Hammer the right fighter to prepare him for Usyk?
I don't know. No. But I don't think you can. I don't know if you can actually find somebody who would prepare you for Usyk.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about stylistically. I'm talking about levels.
No, he's not at all. You can't get away from that. But like I said, it's a scenario that's just Joyce's. I really feel for Joyce. It's not his fault. He's just going to beat who gets put in front of him. I think he proved when he took the Dubois fight that he's somebody who's willing to step up and fight anybody. I genuinely believe, and it's the same with a lot of fighters.
Yeah,
that they do want to step in with the best. Joyce genuinely believes that he's a match for anybody at heavyweight. I think bar Fury, he probably gives a lot of fighters, a tough night. But no, Hammer's not. Yeah, it's just a naff situation all around, isn't it? You can't.
I mean, 13-0 at the minute in his Joy. So for what he's doing in the heavyweight game, you've got to give him props, haven't you? We say he's hanging around, but to be getting himself in a position where he's going to get a world title shot eventually after 13 fights. I can think of other fighters who I won't name, obviously, who are more like 20 odd fights and still fighting Usman.
Every single week, Matt. Every single week.
Again, just giving it some balance.
If it's a case of who's available, who'd want to take the fight. I mean, obviously, Michael Hunter got dropped by Fury at the last minute, but you know what I mean? That fell through a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Could you have made that fight? Would that have been better?
Well, Michael Hunter would have been ready, wouldn't he?
Well, but I mean, contractually, would Hunter still actually is the fight with Hughie Fury still got to go ahead? Do you know what I mean? So is it considered?
They've rescheduled it, haven't they?
Is it
so?
November?
Yeah, so he's tied up then. Who else do you want? Who is there that Joyce could have realistically fought it? Up until about 5 weeks ago, we thought he was going to be fighting Joe Parker. How long was it since this fight was announced? That Hammer was announced?
Not long, is it?
No, do you know what I mean? They've had to. They've obviously just felt the need to get him active. I think if look, Joyce comes through this fight, like you said, Carl, pretty handily. Can they get him out quickly again with a bigger name? I don't know.
Potentially.
He needs. I think. I take your point, Andy. I think he needs. He does need a fight at a higher level, but
he needs a test.
He needs a bit of activity. I mean, would you consider going back down the Dubois rematch route? I'm not sure. Is that worth it for him?
Well, Dubois is a bigger challenge than Christian Hammer for certain.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
And he holds a belt that would get him a shot at the WBA. In theory,
Dubois making noises. He wants that rematch, isn't it? It might only be noise, I might add, because I'm not sure how quick he'll jump in again with Joyce either. But he's making the right noises.
Yeah,
that mandatory challenge for Dubois' title, that was meant to be Hughie Fury, wasn't it, against Hunter? The winner of that was meant to be.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't know whether that's tied up with them two. Just pick up a comment in the sidebar from Joe. It's a shame for Joyce. He has a small fan base, doesn't generate enough money to get a decent level opponent, getting closer to 40 by the day. Yeah. Unfortunately, he is. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of miles on the clock, and his style is going to let him fight a lot longer. You know, he's not a bouncy kind of energetic move around the ring style, is it? You know, it's quite a simple style that's not going to waste a lot of energy and put a lot of miles on the clock, I'd say.
And he lives it as well, don't he?
Yeah, he's a very fit fella, isn't he? It's very easy. He could very easily fight into his 40s, I'd say. But he needs to be getting a much better level opponent before he goes in for a world title shot.
I think he'll fight Dillian White next before he jumps in with Usyk.
Yeah,
Dillian White's a free agent, so in terms of TV production, blah blah blah, it doesn't really matter. So that's where I'm going to hang my hat.
Good shout.
That's not a bad shout, as long as the bridges haven't been burnt with White and Warren. Following
let's be fair, in boxing, it wouldn't surprise you, would it? As in, if it could get made.
Yeah.
Money talks.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I don't know if it did. What I was going to say is, with regards to Parker, I actually think that's a really bad move for him going to boxer, just because I think it freezes him out. Because I think it makes it harder, as this proves, for him to get any meaningful fight that he wants. Unless they're lining him up to fight a rematch with Hughie Fury, provided Fury beats Hunter. But I just think I think it's a bad decision by him. I think
the jury's still out for me, Matt, on the spending power of Ben Shalom. I think that's. I'd be interested to know what his budget looks like, because that's going to be a key factor, isn't it? Especially in the heavyweight game, because when you start going up the echelons, it costs a lot of money to get him in the ring, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I'll be intrigued to know how much Sky actually back in boxing, whether they have. Well, we'll know by the standard of fights.
I mean, that's potentially. I mean, if Dillian White is a free agent, that's the fight. That's a fight for Parker. Sky will be raring to get that on box office as a rematch. I'm sure they would.
And the winner fights Joyce.
Yeah.
It's annoying, these different platforms, different promoters, different platforms, and none of them wanting to work with each other. Just ruins boxing.
It can be done when needed, though. If they're sensible, it can be done.
Yeah.
I mean, why not put it on both platforms? Why has it got to be just on one? Why can't it be on both, on BT and Sky? Why can't they share it? I don't see the big deal.
It's because of competitors, aren't they? That's the truth of it.
You know, I get that, but they've got their own stables. But for a one-off fight, mate, why is it such a big deal? If that's what it takes to make the fight.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of. Sadly, that's all a contract situation, isn't it? I'm sure.
I mean, you can't tell me. You can't. Sorry, Matt.
No, you're
right. You can't tell me if AJ does the unthinkable and wins his titles back. You can't tell me that if he lines the Fury fight up, that's not going to be on both DAZN and BT Sport.
I don't think it will.
Well, it'll have to be, mate. Otherwise,
because whilst we come on to Usyk AJ, interestingly, now he's signed exclusively to DAZN, yet the Saudis have got the TV rights for this fight. So now there's a bidding war going on between DAZN and Sky about who's going to get the UK rights to this fight.
Is that actually fact?
Well, that's rumoured, obviously, but that's what I'm hearing. Nobody's announced it yet, have they?
How's Scarlet Pimpernel's come back, look? How are you, fella?
Hello. Yeah. I'm not too bad.
Yep, sound.
Good, mate.
So, yeah, if you read everything, if you believe everything you read, there's a bit of a bidding war going on between Sky and DAZN.
Yeah, and a certain figure, prominent figure in the boxing industry in the States, who's quite loud on Twitter, Mr. Glazer, he's put something out about it today, saying that Eddie Earns sold his promotional rights. And where does that leave DAZN? I mean, they must have been giving him some serious money if that's the case. He sold the rights to promote the fight.
And
really weird.
To throw another curveball in as well, sources are telling me, there you go, I'll use that line, that the Saudis is not all about the pound note. The Saudis may choose Sky because it's a bigger subscription platform, it's a wider exposure, and it lends itself to more advertisement of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to a bigger audience. So it's feasible that DAZN may well miss out on this AJ fight.
I thought it was a little bit odd that Adam Smith was at the presser, and then there was also sort of column inches on the Sky Sports website and footage of the press conference there. I didn't know this news, so I just initially assumed that Sky will cover it.
You know, I like to bring an exclusive. You know, I like to bring an exclusive, Matt.
Well, Mr. Exclusive.
So all of this back and forth between Eddie and Sky added Smith over the last few months, all the bad blood, all the interviews, and he might still be back on Sky after all.
Can you imagine
what Eddie Hearn's actually? If Eddie Hearn sold the promotional rights, he's got to have. He's either been offered an absolute lorry load of money. What has he got in his back pocket? What do you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like a really weird sort of. I don't know. That does not strike anybody else as odd.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree with you, mate. And how does that sit with DAZN? How does that sit with the powers that be at DAZN? They're not going to be happy about that, surely.
I'd love to have a read of that contract regarding what it involves and what it doesn't, because it must have been in that contract somewhere regarding this fight. But PR-wise for DAZN, it's a nightmare. Can you imagine they've done this big shebang? We've got AJ exclusive to DAZN, blah blah blah. But however, his unification fight against Usyk, it's on Sky. We forgot to mention that.
What you think? Sidebar, he's agreeing with you.
Yeah. Cheers, Joe, for validating, man. Sean, what do you think about where's this fight going to land, Sean?
I think that we're careful on there. I mean, I don't know how feasible, but with wanting to get in eyeballs on it, especially from the UK, the chances, as slim as it may be, if it lands on ITV or terrestrial.
No. Please stop talking nonsense like I'm going to have to mute you. They would never be able to afford it.
ITV have got a box office fund, though.
Yeah, but come on, they're not even in the frame. No one's even mentioning them. So I'll tell you what, Sean, if it's on ITV, I'll send you Create a Beer down.
Yeah, if it isn't financial reasons and they want to promote the sale as this brand new wonderful country. The best way to do it would be able to amount of eyeballs on it and pay-per-view 1.1 million or whatever. But say if it was us, I don't think it will happen. It could get 6-7 million, and surely it'd be more beneficial for them if it's for reasons.
I think the beauty of going on Sky, though, Sean, is the Sky Sports news element, you know, the Premier League games where it can all be billed on at half time. I think that's where the eyeballs come in, doesn't it? Whereas ITV, I know you've got an audience, but if it's not DAZN, man money's Sky. It must be a serious consideration, or they would have announced it by now. You know, it must be a proper negotiation. What's your money on, Andy? Where do you think it's going? Sorry, Sean, go on.
I agree with you.
Go on, Sean.
Go on, Sean.
With have you seen Joe Muggy's recent comments? Her not working with all.
Yeah.
Do you think in the long term it's going to ruin his relationship, and maybe he'll be looking for a new broadcaster?
Yeah, I thought for a while that DAZN are probably not getting what they expected from Eddie, in my honest opinion. I don't think DAZN are adverse to working with other promoters. Joe Markowski frowned on the fact, didn't he, that he'd been falling out with promoters, and he wanted to distance DAZN as a brand from that squabbling. You know, well, that's not a great message, is it? So
let's have a deal with Golden Boy, DAZN.
Yeah. Mainly for American fight nights, so isn't it, Matt? But that could quite easily come over the Atlantic, couldn't it?
I mean, the one thing they're obviously doing is in fairness to Eddie Hearn, he's doing something that hasn't really been done before in terms of a global promoter, global TV. Do you know what I mean? It's something new and it's untested, and it feels like they've spread themselves very, very thin.
Yeah, I agree.
I think, look, how many times I think on the time since I've known you guys and sort of been watching this, like there's been weeks where we've said good things about Ben Shalom, and then other weeks, no, not so great. Eddie Hearn is still the best as far as everybody's concerned, but even then you sort of think to yourself, what's this own relationship like? Uncle Frank's still knocking around there. You know, these things go in swings and roundabouts, but it's great to speculate, isn't it? It's great to have get the big wooden spoon out. And
I don't think he sit well with Eddie Hearn when he lost them couple of purse bids to Frank Warren. I think that might have hurt his ego a little bit. So, yeah.
That would have been huge. I mean, if that had been huge to have Fury White on DAZN, like, bloody hell, that would have been their pay-per-view arm launch straight away.
Joe's commented in the sidebar, Hearn's promised his own the earth and delivered the moon. Pretty good way of summing it up, isn't it, really?
It was always a gamble, though, when Eddie went over to DAZN, because it still is only an app at the end of the day. People have still got to subscribe and pay a monthly charge, whether it's $1.99 or $7.99. You know, it's a totally different vehicle to Sky, isn't it?
And you've got this old that they're going to start charging now on pay-per-view as well. That's going to turn people away.
Yeah,
as we spoke about last week. Back to what you were going to ask me, Carl. I agree with you, and I think it's going to end up on Sky. If all these rumours are true about the Saudis taking control, then I don't see it being on DAZN at all. It's going to leave DAZN in a real bad position. It's going to make them look really poor because they've just paid Anthony Joshua, or they've just signed a contract with Anthony Joshua for £100 million to be exclusive on their platform, and he might not be.
Paying him money for
nothing. It's not a good look. It's not a good look.
And also the interesting thing is, if he was to get beat by Usyk, the level of fight he'll be fighting, I'd have concerns over that if I was Mr. DAZN. So throw that in the mix as well.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from there, but I think Anthony Joshua, on his name alone, he reaches further than the boxing market, mate. He's one of the only people that in boxing currently that can do that. He reaches further than the boxing market, and people buy pay-per-view to see Joshua fight. They're not interested on the undercard. They're not interested in whatever else is on the bill. They won't bother watching the show until 9:30 at night when Joshua's getting wrapped up. You know.
And also, they made him a brand ambassador as well. And there's there'll be a lot of work outside the ring that he'll be doing to raise awareness of the zone.
Yeah, I mean that's a shrewd move, isn't it? Because of his popularity. I think Anti got a percentage in the company as well now as well.
Yeah, he got shares, yeah. So just coming on to the press conference, I'll start with you, Sean. How did you think they both looked in the various press conferences?
To take from him really was the twist, and I guess we'll have to see what Garcia brings, but I think that you can take a lot from the others that we've seen so far, really.
What about you, Matt? Anything you saw where you thought that looks a bit different, or gave you a clue how it's going to go?
Nah, nothing.
Nah.
AJ's very. I don't want to say he's almost a script, but you almost know what you're sort of going to get from him at pressers. Usyk's Usyk probably is just a little bit more sort of serious than he normally is, because I think most people would see him. Some of the press conferences I've seen before, Bellew in particular, like he's a bit more of a jovial character and what have you.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, how far away from the fight are we? 8 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever it is. Nah, I mean. Nothing, no massive takeaways. Do you know what I mean? Just the fact that it's signed, it's done, and thankfully they're finally going to get the fight over. They're finally going to get it on.
What about you, Andy?
Way too sterile for me, mate. It's all way too sterile. There's no fans there. There's no real boxing fans there. You know, it's big businessmen with lots and lots and lots of money. It doesn't do it for me at all. Never will do. It's not a boxing country. They'll turn it into one because of the amount of money they've got. All these massive fights, mate, are going to end up going there instead of being in the likes of Vegas and the Garden. They're going to end up going over there just because of the money. And it's nothing. It does nothing for me, mate. The fight will do nothing for me because the atmosphere will be absolutely dreadful. Just like the Ruiz 2 fight, absolutely dreadful atmosphere. It takes away from the fight for me. Yeah, I'm not impressed, mate, I'm afraid.
The only benefit to us guys is that the time zone's not bad, is it? That's the only bonus.
So. Yeah. I guess so, but I'd rather get up at stupid o'clock in the morning, mate, or sit all the way through. You know,
fun.
Yeah, but some of them American fight cards, the atmosphere crap as well. Let's have it right.
No, you're right, but it's better than there.
Just,
you know, at least you've got some boxing fans. At least you've got some people that understand the sport and are knowledgeable on the sport, because you're not getting it over there.
I'm all about from a noise perspective, the atmosphere. You know, some of them Americans, dreadful. Yeah. Right, moving on then. So this one's another rumour that's circulating at the minute. Liam Beefy Smith and Eubank Jr. This rumour's been hanging around for a while. Talk is that they're possibly going to get it on at 160. So I'll come to you first, Matt. What's your initial thoughts on this fight happening? Again, just signs that Smith's got to go up again to get a fight. Thoughts?
I like it as a fight. I think it's more meaningful. It's far more meaningful for Eubank Jr. than a Liam Williams. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Smith.
Say that again, sorry.
Liam Smith, not Williams.
Yeah, no, but as in like his. Sorry, Liam.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, more meaningful than that. I get you. Like, sorry, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's far more meaningful than that. Liam Smith has proved he is still, you know, sort of knocking on the door of a world title shot. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a little bit of a risk from Liam Smith's point of view, and the only reason I say that is because of the size sort of thing.
Yeah.
I saw somebody on Twitter today just saying that, you know, Smith stops him. I can't see that. If there's a stoppage, for me, it would only be for Eubank Jr. But
I mean, what do you think Eubank walks into that ring at weight-wise on fight night? It's going to be massive, isn't it?
Yeah. If it's made at 160, he'd be walking in about what 172, maybe.
Who wins, Matt?
Eubank Jr. for me. I hate to say it, sorry, but yeah, he's infuriating me because, in fairness to Liam Smith, has a lot to gain from this. I say he has a lot to gain. I mean, for Eubank Jr., it's another fight for me. While Liam Smith is a very respected fighter, it's Eubank Jr. getting somebody to jump up in weight. And somebody who he has just natural, it's not somebody in his own weight division who is a top 10 bona fide contender. So the fight doesn't do anything for Eubank Jr. I'd love to see Liam Smith win, but I just don't, I can't see it.
What I don't really understand, I'll come to you in a minute, Andy, because I know you're going to have a little rant about this, so I'm holding off. Why is he not jumping in with the likes of Munguia, Cash, Murata, people like that, where he's actually going to improve his ranking?
Only he knows.
I know, but they're all in and around him in all these governing bodies.
I can't take him seriously, Carl. I can't. He's so much talk down the years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's delivered nothing.
And he's running out of time, isn't
he? He is, and look, he's making plenty of money doing it. I don't begrudge him that, but don't tell me you're the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And keep picking on people who are close to retirement or below you in weight or put up or shut up.
So, cheers, Matt. So, Sean, I'll come to you after Andy. So, Andy, come on then, let's take this one away.
Very plain and simple, mate. Eubank's not interested in legacy. He's only interested in pound notes. This is why he's fighting names. He wasn't long ago. He was wanting Kell Brook. He's calling Kell Brook out, who's 3 weights below him. And now he wants Liam Smith, who's 1 or 2 weights below him, depending on whether he's fighting at middleweight or super middleweight. This fight for me makes absolutely no sense for Liam Smith. Absolutely no sense. He's got ambition still. I know it probably makes him a lot of money. I get that. But he's got ambition to be a world champion. And he's got the ability to still be that. Why put yourself through a training camp where you've got to put unnecessary weight on just to make the fight against somebody that's going to be a very, very big middleweight or borderline super middleweight when he steps in the ring? It makes absolutely no sense for Liam Smith, this. No sense at all. This is all about, and for Eubank, this is just about picking some more cash up. He's got no interest in fighting Jamie Munguia, mate, because he gets beat, and he knows he gets beat.
Some comments in the sidebar.
If you look at the rankings, Carl, if you look at the rankings, Eubank sat at number 1 with the WBA, number 3 with the WBC. He's at number 4 with the WBO. Munguia is sat at number 2 with the WBA, 2 with the WBC, and 1 with the WBO. That's the fight that should be made because they're both right up there.
What's Eubank done to get them rankings, though?
I don't know, mate.
The BA one is because he holds a WBA belt.
Good evening, Jack, by the way.
Oh, evening. I kind of agree with Carl to an extent. But the one thing I would say with the whole weight thing, Liam Williams, from what I've heard from people, does walk round at about 175. He doesn't walk round at 154. He's just very losing the weight the right way.
Liam Smith.
Liam Smith.
Yeah.
I think he does walk round about 175. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like someone's told me this before.
That feels big, though, Jack. That
feels very big.
That feels big.
Yeah.
We met him the other week at the M&S Arena, and I'll be honest with you, it's difficult to tell, but he didn't look 175 to me.
No.
I mean, I've always been told that he knows how to get the weight off gradually as opposed to crash it. So he starts camps for when he knows there's a fight on, probably. So if they give him 2 or 3 fight dates, and he will work to the nearest one. So if he's been given 2 or 3 fight dates, and say that fight is, what's a realistic time now? Probably September, October time, realistically. So say they gave him September, he will have already started to put the weight off, because he comes down over months as opposed to the people who crash it, which, by the way, is the best way to do it. I don't... But allegedly, he does walk around naturally, maybe closer to 172 to 173, but he does walk around a lot above 154. But
but that's not his fighting weight, though, Jack.
If he can make 154, why not do it? Like, if he can make 154, he will probably be world champion, because Charlo will move up.
Yeah, all I would say is that I've spoken to a couple of well-known nutritionists, and they've told me, just on a bit of a side note, there's no way he should be crashing weight anymore, because there's so much sports science out there that it should be done safely over an amount of months, unless you get a tight fight deadline, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way anyone, and I would say this from a matchmaking perspective, I never ask anyone what they walk around at, because it would scare the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Some people I know do crash weight. And I mean, there's probably maybe 2, maybe 3 fighters who I actually know what they walk around at.
Yeah.
The Liam Smith one is just a rumor that I feel like someone mentioned it, and I've never had to match him, so it's never really bothered me. But ones I match, I tend not to want to know the weight, because sometimes you're matching someone at 10 stone. If they're walking around at 12 stone, you really don't want to know that.
Yeah, Jack, I'm just going to pick some comments up in the side. So, good evening, Larry. Thanks for your contribution. Larry said, Liam Smith coming off a good performance against Vargas on the Katie Taylor card. Really good to see he's still dangerous. Good evening, Ryan. Joe says, great fight. This is if Beefy can drag the pre-Jones Jr. Eubank out, and we should have a war. Larry goes on to say, also, some rumours about Eubank Jr. might having to fight Conor Benn. That will be, obviously.
Oh, please don't let that fight happen.
Again, a fighter 2 weights below him. I mean, where's his ambition? Where's his ambition as a fighter?
You know, when he won the IBO belt, Eubank, he went round and was in Brighton like he was the unified champion. I mean,
it's from your neck of the woods, isn't it?
I mean, he drives around, and I mean, he's got a 3 or 4 million house on the seafront. I mean, if he's not in boxing to be a world champion, he doesn't need the money anymore. So, I stay relevant, celebrity, really.
I'm getting the feeling that you don't have a lot of time for him.
I don't know.
So don't buy him a ticket, a membership to the Chris Eubank Jr. fan club. I'm getting from this, but to be fair, the McLaren thing would really like one of those, and I can't drive, so I can't begrudge him that bit. But
so on the next topic, I'm going to let Andy use his pronunciation skills on this one. Andy, you ready?
Who we talking?
You're going to find out now. You're going to find out now.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
So this fight's going quite a bit under the radar, isn't it? Breedis against
Go on.
Jaya Petia.
Yeah, it's a good effort. You'll do.
I'll take a bow for that one.
Yeah, take a bow. Yeah.
Fair enough, because I can't pronounce it.
I'd have just said the Australian.
Yeah. This is obviously a voluntary fight, because it's not mandatory, because Petty is only the fourth, ranked number 4 in the IBF, which beggars the belief of why either Richard Riakporte, who's at number 2, or Chris Billam-Smith, who's at number 3 and not getting this shot?
I know why Reactpour isn't.
Come on then, Jack.
The reason Reactpour isn't was just because the other fight that he had recently was booked in beforehand, and he just wouldn't have been ready. The Billam-Smith one, scratch me if I know why that's not happening. But yeah, Reactpour was just simply logistically it wasn't possible.
Jack, are you sure you're not advising Bradis? Because he turned up as Crocodile Dundee at the press conference. And I thought that's got Jack wrote all over it. That has.
No, I'm not, but I'd like to be because he seems like he's utterly mental, but it's hilarious.
I just thought.
I like
Speaking
him.
of that,
I think he's a character.
Sean, what do you think of all this stuff that Bradis does? Super Mario, Crocodile Dundee, dressing up like an idiot, dancing around.
Nonsense.
What do you think? I mean, do you think Go on.
I think half of the reason is the language barrier, if I'm being honest. He speaks a bit of English, but not perfect. So I think he wants to get his character out, like how eccentric he is. But that's the best way of going about it. I think he's good enough to do the talking. And the whole, I forget who it was, Jake Paul, Logan Paul thing that he was doing was just embarrassing. He should be fighting like that, really. I just don't get it because he's got all this in the world and he should let him, really.
I mean, this guy's held the Ring magazine belt since 2020 and he's messing around as Mario and entertaining fighting Jake Paul. We need to remember the ring. Yeah, same thing with both clans.
Let's not get it mixed up here, though, Carl. He's only holding the Ring magazine belt because Usyk decided to go.
Yeah, of course, but his name's still on there, though, Andy. I'm saying for the prestige of the belt and for the sake of boxing, we need to be very careful what these clans are up to.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Can we just point out that the heavyweight champion of the world once came to a press conference dressed as Batman?
Yeah.
Like, we're not. I think after that anyone could do anything, and it kind of wouldn't shock me.
But there's a line, isn't there, Jack? He ain't having tattoos of the poor, whichever poor brother it was. And
that was weird. I'll be honest, that was weird even for me. And I'm like, and I quite like eccentric, but that was weird even for me. But the whole coming dressed as Mario and that, I just find that amusing. He's doing whatever he's doing. And
let's have it right, Jack. While I think about it, Tyson Fury did that to get a mental edge over Usyk, Klitschko in a press conference. Brady's just walked into a TV studio dressed as Mario, so there's a slight difference.
Yeah, I mean Fury is, whatever you want to say about him, is master of mind games. I don't know if Bradis is just playing mind games on himself at this point. Because he actually seems like he's...
Well, there's no hope for him then.
Yeah.
It has to be the poorest division in boxing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
There's a reason why Usyk stepped up, isn't there? It's called money.
Yeah.
That and outside of Canelo now, I would argue super middle, but
Yeah, super middle's had better times as well.
I mean, Canelo, all right, but one man, he needs a dance partner to fight. All right, Golovkin's going up, but it's a 41-year-old Golovkin. No Saunders, no.
We'll talk about that shortly.
Yeah.
So, Matt, coming back to Mario, what do you think of him, and how this fight plays out?
I can't say as I know much about the Aussie fella. Bradis is a fighter I like. As a character, more recently, very cringeworthy. I understand that Sean's point about him being sort of like wanting to get his character out there and everything like that. It comes across as it comes across more Borat than Borat, doesn't it? It's like, yeah. I mean, I like him as a fighter, but yeah. I don't think the Zone really did their homework that night where they got him in as a pundit, and 2 minutes in they realised he couldn't talk a word of sort of decent English, and
it was
that was weird.
It was like listening to Andy after 12 Stellas.
Yeah, no, I can't say. I've just been looking through the Aussie fellas record, and there isn't sort of like too many names on there I recognise. Yeah, I'll pass judgment on this one.
Look, the boys know what I do for a living, and I had to look him up. Like, I wasn't 100%. I was like, I recognise this name vaguely, but I have no idea who you are. I'm gonna have to look you up.
Yeah.
You know.
Sean, sorry, Jack. Sean, do you want to come in? Anything you want to say regarding this fight?
It's just a passing time fight from really in there with the big boys in the division.
Who are?
That's a good question. I guess you haven't really, but that's debatable.
Yeah.
Okoli's the next best, but it's not as alive as it was at one point when you had the likes of sort of Usyk and Gassiev, and I know it was just before them, but Bellew and people like that. It's even at that point, Makabu, because until Bellew beat him, people still thought he was good.
Mm.
You know, Bellew had to move up to earn a pound note as well, didn't he? Let's have it right.
Yeah, that and then but fair play to Bellew, he came back down and fought Usyk. Like,
it was dead at the weight though, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
It was obvious. It wasn't the same Bellew that fought Makabu that fought Usyk. Because he
Well, yeah. The thing is with that though as well, Jack. What you need to understand about that fight is that Usyk didn't give Bellew a second to rest.
I thought Bellew did quite well in that fight early on. I thought Bellew did well.
He did, mate. He did, and as you know, Cole. I mean, we went to that. We went to that fight at Goodison.
Yeah,
I'm a big Bellew fan. I like what he's about. I like he's a family man. I like he's honest. But he was fighting Usyk's fight for the whole fight.
He wasn't good enough, was
he thought he was in the fight, but in reality, Usyk was making him do what he wanted to do.
He's very honest, Bellew. He said it's all about levels, and Usyk is levels above one tech.
Yeah. Especially at that point in Bellew's career as well. If it had been a couple of years before, it might have been a different situation, a different result.
I'm not so sure.
No, maybe not. You might be right. He probably is levels, but you're talking about a Bellew that's right at the end of his career there, aren't you?
Bellew was world level. I think Usyk was world class. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Look, Jack, you're not at the negotiation table now, Stop coming out with these phrases, mate. You're trying to drill us on percentage or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get a percentage out of Usyk's next fight, because apparently that's quite well paid.
Well, while we're talking about well-paid fights, this is the last topic of the night, and Jack, I'm sure you'd like to have a piece of this pie.
Oh.
Well, I wouldn't mind the money side of it. No.
But like I put on there, do we really care? So, Jack, over to you first.
First time novelty, yeah. Second time, do we really need to see it again? Not really. Both of them are now older. McGregor hasn't won an MMA fight since January 2020, I want to say. I might be wrong on that. I do watch some of the UFC stuff, but not loads. I mean, never mind a boxing match. And then Mayweather's retired. What are we on? Retirement number 8 now?
Will you buy it, Jack?
I don't know. Possibly, but only if there's nothing else that night.
Would you buy it, Andy?
Not a prayer. Prayer would I buy that
Difference is I can write it off on tax, can't I?
Anyway, HMRC might be listening, Jack, so let's finish that one there. So,
not a prayer, mate. Not a prayer. I wouldn't even buy it with your money, Carl.
Would it change your mind if the rumours that they might be putting Tank versus Ryan Garcia on the undercard?
I'd buy it to watch Tank versus Garcia.
They're going to have to do something like that.
But I'll tell you what I'd do, right? I'd watch Tank versus Garcia, and then I'd go to bed.
How could Tank versus Garcia be the undercard of that?
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
ask.
that's what they're rumouring. That's what they're rumouring. Well, come on, Mayweather's ego is not going to allow him to be on the
No,
undercard, is it?
I get that, but that's just, mate.
It just
Like,
the things like this annoy me. It really annoys me because
And they're getting more frequent, aren't they? That's the trouble.
yeah, and just because Mayweather can, he is. He's not thinking. He's not thinking. Should I? He's just thinking. Well, I can, so I'm going to.
I'll tell you
I
what
don't
really
care what
disappoints
anybody else
me. It disappoints me when you got Tyson Fury talking about it. That really does disappoint me.
Is that the Tyson Fury who says he's not interested in money and then wants half a bill?
Half a billet.
Half a billet.
Can I get a piece of that fight, please? Because like
Whoa.
£500 million, I'm
Half a billet.
even 1% of that I'll take.
I think you're asking the wrong fellas.
Yeah, I think you might be. So Matt, I'll ask you, will you buy it?
Didn't buy the first one, wouldn't buy the second one. No chance.
Even with Tank versus Garcia?
You're putting money into Mayweather's pocket, aren't you? He doesn't need it. I mean, like,
That's
it
some
makes
scrap, though.
it makes it. It is a hell of a fight. I think that degrades the fight. Being on the if that was seriously, I don't think it will happen. I mean, it's the first I've heard of it this evening. I don't think that would happen.
Is that another exclusive, Matt?
Mr. Exclusive, I told you.
You have to get a T-shirt done at this rate.
Yeah. If that fight's on,
Jesus, you're in danger of sounding like Andy here. You're taking so long answering this question. Come on, Matt, would you buy it or not?
No, I've liked my sleep.
So Sean, moving on to you then. So, would you buy it, Sean?
No, and the other thing I have, would old on that card Mayweather, you know, they have doubts to that as well. If they put that on you,
That'll tell you why he fights, mate.
Yeah.
Is Garcia still with De La
all
Hoya?
these American fighters,
They fell out.
all these American fighters think about one thing. They think about money over legacy. Every single one of them.
So, Jack, I don't know whether he's still with Golden Boy, got Ryan Garcia. I think he might
fell
be.
out with them, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I mean, but Oscar falls out with everyone. I feel like he must have like beers on a Friday and fall out with them. I mean, Oscar was a great fighter and he may be a great negotiator. I don't know. I've never worked with him or done anything with him, but like I felt like they fell out at one point, and I don't know if Garcia is now a free agent or what. But
Carl, do you want to pick up the
seems to have stalled for me?
Say again,
do you
Jack.
want to pick up the comments from Larry in the sidebar?
So, yes. So, Larry says, Tank versus Garcia is actually a good fight. Ryan, for me, is a better pure boxer, but Tank has that power. It's an interesting fight since Tank really hasn't fought that high of opposition. He goes on to say, however, Ryan has to beat Fortuna first, which I think he will. And he also goes on to say, got to keep that O. One of the things that hurt modern boxing, everyone wants to be like Floyd.
Totally
Yeah,
agree
why
with
does
that.
everyone want to be undefeated? Forever.
Because they think it gives them more of a pan note, Jack. That's why.
The reason people respected Mayweather for doing it so much is you can say he fought them when they were faded, but you look at his record. De La Hoya, Hatton, even Zab Judah at that point. I'm trying to think of others now.
He fought loads, mate. He fought loads.
Way past it.
He fought loads, but he did pick certain fighters at certain times to keep that low. But the problem is, by that point, he was that powerful that he could do what he wanted anyway. He held all the cards, didn't he?
He's a very shrewd businessman, though, isn't he? Because he set he set the blueprint for how to manage yourself, didn't he?
He knew how to stack the deck in his favour every time.
Yeah, and he was the first one to do it.
Carl, seeing as though Larry's gave his 2 pence worth about Tank and Garcia, how do you see that fight going?
Yeah, I think Tank would get to him. I like Garcia a lot, but he's at the beginning of his career. I think Tank would be a bit too savvy for him, a bit too much ring craft. So I think Tank would actually beat him.
Matt?
Yeah, Tank stops in between 8 and 10 for me.
Sean?
Yeah, I would go with Tank. I think Luke Campbell was arguably beaten guy who got stops. The blueprint, really.
What about you, Jack? How do you see it?
The last 2 fights I've seen Garcia in, he hasn't amazed me. Like he looked really good when he first came onto the scene, but I just think Tank is getting better, and arguably Garcia's stagnating or even going backwards a little bit. So I think that you lot are all right. I think Tank would stop him late because I think he'll get to him.
Garcia needs that momentum again, doesn't he?
Yeah, he needs something.
I'm going to book the trend a little bit. I don't think Tank stops him late. I think Tank stops him very early. Because Garcia throws punches with his chin in the air. It's tailor-made for Tank.
Yeah, he's so fast. He leaves his chin open.
Yeah, he does.
And I agree with you there, actually. He does leave his chin open. And he's done that his whole career. Because I was at one of his early fights. He fought on Canelo's undercard when Canelo fought Rocky Fielding at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And even against, like, lesser opposition, he was still leaving his chin in the air. He was mind-blowingly fast, but he was leaving his chin in the air. Which...
It's an unfortunate trait, mate, that he's never been trained out of him. It's never been trained out of him.
He'll walk onto one with it. That's what he'll do.
Yeah. And it's likely to be against Tank because the thing is, Tank will stand and trade.
Yeah.
Tank's timing is good as well. If you
very good.
He can time shots quite well.
I don't think Garcia would be as quick either if you had to alter his style at all, and you have to start putting his chin a bit lower. I think that impacts his delivery.
Of course, he does.
Well, yeah, because
you know what I mean. Like, I don't think he can. I don't think he has world class hand speed. But I think if you try and alter him, you try and sort of like play around with his stance and guard and everything. I think I don't think he can. He won't be able to throw shots as quick.
It's like when they tried to turn Khan into a puncher. His hand speed suffered from that. Although his problem was he just didn't have a chin, but that's besides the point.
Yeah. Is there any other topics you want to cover before we bring the show to a close, guys? A bit of an open forum one. Jack, anything
while we're thinking about that, I'll just pick a couple of comments up in the sidebar from Larry. He's trained by Joe Goosen now. I'm assuming he's saying Garcia. And he's also put, for me, it's suspect that a C-level guy like Rolly Romero, I don't know about C-level, mate, was outboxing Tank for a good part of their fight. I think Rolly's a bit of a better fighter than C-level.
He's a bit above C-level, I think. Like, he's not... All right, he's not world class, but...
I think he's right up there, though.
Above C-level.
I think he's right up there. I understand what he's saying. There is fighters out there that are going to be able to outbox Tank.
Yeah.
But Tank's got this ring savvy and timing, like you said a bit ago, Jack, that gets him out of those situations. He does rely on his power a little bit too much, though.
He finds a way to win, doesn't he? Up to now, yeah.
There might be someone at some point that will be able to do it. I just don't know if Garcia is that man. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say it's an absolute mauling because I don't think it will be. I think it'll be a competitive fight. But I do think eventually he will time one. And as you say, Ryan has his chin in the air and he will time one and it will catch him.
I've got a topic. I've got a topic we can talk about for a little while. Spence V Crawford is looking like it's getting a bit closer and closer by the week.
That's a great fight.
For me, this is the best fight in boxing, bar none. It doesn't make the most money, but it's the best fight in boxing, bar none. I'll come to each of you. I'll start with you, Matt. Of the two fighters, who do you think's got the best resume?
Probably, my gut reaction is Crawford. Yeah, my gut reaction would say Crawford.
And saying that, then who do you think wins the fight?
Crawford. Yeah.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah, I agree with him. I think Crawford on both.
This might come as a little bit of a surprise to you when I start reading some names out in a minute. Cole?
I don't think there's much between the resumes, if I'm honest with you. But my gut feeling about the resumes is that it's fairly even, but I'm going to go for Crawford to beat him. I'm not sure what Spencer's got left. I don't think anyone knows what he's got left, if we're honest. So I think Crawford beats him.
What about you, Jack?
I feel like I looked this up recently. There's not that much between the resumes. I think people think Crawford's is like so much better because of the whole undisputed at 140 thing. But like, and I do think he wins the fight. I don't think he stops Spence, by the way. I think Crawford on points.
I'll tell you what I'll do quickly. I'll read out the last eight opponents.
Yeah, go on.
And the result. So if we start with Errol Spence, back in 2017, me and Cole were at this fight. He beat Kell Brook, stopped him in the 11th round. In 2018, he beats Lamont Peterson in 7 rounds, KO. 2019, Mikey Garcia goes to points. 2019 again, Sean Porter goes to points, but still a win, obviously. 2020, Danny Garcia goes to points. And 2022, stops Ugas. So Terence Crawford, in 2018, he fought Jeff Horn. Stoppage in round 9. 2018 again, Benavidez Jr. stopped him in round 12. 2019, Amir Khan, well past his best, stopped him in round 6. Here's the one I'm going to struggle pronouncing. 2019, Kavalakis. Does that sound about right?
I say if you can't pronounce
I
it,
know who you mean, but I don't have a clue how to pronounce it.
Stopped him in round 9 anyway. 2020, a completely shot Kell Brook, stopped him in round 4. And 2021, past his best Sean Porter, stopped him in round 10. In my opinion, looking at that, Errol Spencer's got by far the better resume.
Yeah, but if you go back as well, there's a couple on Crawford's resume early on that are up there as well.
Yeah, I agree that, but then you're talking like 5-6 years ago, Jack. That means that's got no relevance to what could happen in this fight, has it?
I know. I'm not saying his resume has any relevance to what could happen in the fight, but I'm just saying resume-wise, there is stuff on there that resume and how it affects the fight are different.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of, and I don't want this to sound like I'm saying Crawford isn't a great fighter, because he is. I think there's a little bit of an enigma around Crawford.
I think there's an undisputed bias.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. But since he's moved up,
there's this thing about
you've got Kell Brook and you've got Amir Khan on there. Both well past the best. A Sean Porter that's well past his best. In the last, and they're 3 of the last 4 fights. I just think maybe Crawford's living off that undisputed thing just maybe a little bit too much.
Yeah, to an extent, you might be right. As I say, like there are like resume-wise, if you go back on Crawford's, it probably is margin. It's about even, because at the time he beat Ricky Burns was considered on like the top 10 pound for pound at that point by the ring.
Yeah.
And people like that. But then, as you say, when he's moved up, a lot of the people, you don't realise how how many sort of people he caught at the right time. Like he caught the likes of Brook and Calm when they were both past their best. Brook admits
he's also
that fight for the money.
He's also had 10 more fights than Errol Spence.
Yeah.
So he's had longer, arguably he's had longer to build that resume in his early career. Personally, I think he was better at the lower weight.
Personally, yeah, I agree with you. I think at 140, I don't think that Josh Taylor would have got under. I'm not sure Josh Taylor gets undisputed with Crawford there.
Based on just when I played devil's advocate here, then, so based on what you said about, and understandably so, about Brook and Khan, and given what Spence has been through, so if Crawford wins, is he actually in a no-win situation? Because people will say, well, he's beat a Spence that's, car accident, etc., etc.
True.
Yeah,
there is that actually. Nobody really mentioned it. Yeah.
I think what Cole says holds a lot of weight, though. You just don't know what Spence has got left. That accident's took a lot out of him, hasn't it?
Although I would make one caveat to Spence's resume, the Brook Spence beat wasn't that dissimilar in the fact that he was weight drained as hell. Because he crashed
back down from middleweight.
He crashed back down from 160, which he should never have done, by the way.
Never.
I mean, I would say that take the Lee Wood Cunningham fight to one side. That's Errol Spence performance against Kell Brook away from home in his backyard is possibly the second best live performance I've seen.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, it was a good performance. I'm just saying the caveat is that Brook was weight drained.
What actually the problem is, Jack? It's not that he come back down. It's that he went up to middleweight in the first place. That should never have been allowed. That should never have been allowed to happen.
Yeah, it took a lot from him.
It's very poor promoting and very poor management. They've not protected.
I don't know who managed him at that time when he did that. I don't know if he managed himself.
Well, Dominic was training him, wasn't he?
He was under the Ingle gym, wasn't he? So let's just say that
Ingle, but if he managed himself, he would have. There's not really much a trainer can do other than refuse to train you. If they decide and if they manage, like, I'll give you an example, because I know he did manage himself for a bit. Billy Joe Saunders, if he decided tomorrow to come back, whatever weight he is now, let's say he's 13 stone and fight at cruiserweight, even if he had a trainer, there's not much the trainer can do other than refuse to train him. Like, he can't say to him, you have to come back down to light heavy or you have to come down to super middle.
So, Jack...
So it just depends who managed Brook at the time.
Joe in the sidebar says his dad has always been his manager.
Okay, was his dad still managing him then? I've never really looked into it because I've never had any dealings with Brook other than
I don't blame him for stepping up to middleweight.
No, I don't.
I've said on here before, like the biggest thing was coming all the way back down. He should have gone back to light middle. That was just that. It was for me. It was no brainer. I think for a lot of people, middleweight was too much for him. Fair play to him for stepping up, but he should have gone back down to 154.
The only reason he went to middle in the first place.
Yeah. Well, he saw Khan fighting Canelo, so he thought, well, I'll have a piece of.
The problem is he was fighting Gennady Golovkin at his very, very, very best.
Yes.
Very, very, very best. Dangerous Golovkin at that point. And it was never that was never going to go his way. Never.
I mean,
it was all about money. The problem is he still owed his welterweight title, didn't he? And he didn't want to lose it by not fighting. He didn't want to get stripped.
Yeah.
Do you know the other bad thing about it? It was the IBF title, so they had the rehydration weigh-in. As well. I don't know if you knew that. Like, so with the IBF, you can only put on 10% your weight. Again for the next day.
Yeah.
Which I always think. I don't know. The IBF will. I will speak to someone in the IBF and get them to explain it to me. I don't really understand why that's a thing. because if I ever speak to an IBF official, I might ask them, because it just doesn't make sense to me that. Yeah, I get it's probably to stop people coming into the ring like 25 pounds heavier, but if you were really tight on the weight, like most of that weight will go back on naturally anyway.
Yeah.
The 10%.
Right, I'm going to bring the show to a close, guys. So I'll let Andy take it out. Thank you for all the comments in the sidebar. Andy, I'll leave it with you.
Guys, thanks for joining us on screen. It's always a pleasure to have you all on. It's brilliant. The banter's always great. Everybody in the sidebar, all very intelligent comments as usual. Please all join us again. Every single week we do the show slightly later today because of a few technical issues, but it's normally bang on 7 o'clock every single week. We've got lots of footage, fairly recent new footage out on the show as well. Check out some of the videos. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already done so. And we'll see you next Thursday.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, boys.